Today on the first episode of Lunascope Film School, we're going to check out this bad boy, the GVM 150S, a chip-on-board, bicolor LED light which also has RGB. Let's check it out. Now, the first thing I noticed is every time I opened a box, magically another box would appear. I don't know if this is Amazon's doing or GVM's doing, but yeah, it's not fun. Without further ado, this is the GVM 150S. And the case is nice enough. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but you know, it's got foam, canvas outlay. I mean, I don't think it'll rip, but it's got no hard plastic. It's not going to protect much. But it is nice that it comes with a case. And then we get to the beast itself. And actually, this thing is pretty beefy. I like the yoke. If you don't know what a yoke is, this little bracket thing here is called a yoke, a light yoke. And I like, it feels pretty sturdy. Sometimes with the 120D, when you put the gigantic light dome on it, sometimes the yoke has a tendency to bow a little bit, and I don't think that will do that with this one. Oh, wow. And it looks like you can actually change the beam angle on this. It does have somewhat of a Fresnel lens, not a full Fresnel, but, you know, somewhat of a Fresnel lens, but that's kind of cool if nothing else. Then you got all your triggers and switches back here. You got DMX in and out, so you can run a daisy chain of these. Power source. Let's see what else this comes with. We got power cord, power supply, and hood. A dented hood, actually. Oh, I bet you, because this pad isn't that thick, when they packed it, this ran into this and completely dented it. And other than that, I just want to put it through its paces. I want to compare it to that bad boy right there. The Aputure 120D. It's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but I love this light from Aputure. Aputure always puts out great stuff, and I want to see what this thing can do, so let's go check it out. Comparing the two lights side by side, there's an obvious size difference, with the Aputure being much smaller and the GVM being much larger and heavier. And when you think about their use cases, that actually makes sense. The Aputure is more for portability, more for run and gun. It has a place for a V-mount battery on the back of the ballast. And the GVM, on the other hand, has no way to hook a battery to it, which makes it more of a studio light where you don't need it to be as small, so they're able to get a big light, which is better for cooling. At least that's what I first thought. The Aputure light, when the fan is on full speed, you can't hear it unless you put a mic right next to it. And the GVM light, while still quiet, you can definitely hear it. Let's hear that now. You hear that hum? You will need to account for that on set, or else you might have that on your audio track. The Aputure power supply is more portable, more modular, meant for run and gun. There's a place for a V-mount battery on the back, a little canvas loop, so you can hang it on the C-stand so it's not just dangling there. While the GVM, on the other hand, just has a generic power supply that you would see on any electronic. And I wonder if after a certain amount of time, if that's going to put wear and tear on the power supply itself, because if you put the light high, it just dangles there. They do have a good locking mechanism on the back of the light, but I'm just not so sure that power supply is going to hold up over time. Now moving to the front, they both employ Bowens mounts on the front of the light, so you can employ any kind of light modifier like a light dome or a Fresnel mount if you want. But the Bowens mounts are not created equal. The Aputure Bowens mount is made out of metal. All you have to do is click it and turn, and it locks in. To unlock it, you slide a little mechanism, turn, and pull out. The GVM, on the other hand, has a screw to lock it in place, which means it's only as strong as that screw. And just a side note, the hood that comes with the GVM might as well be made out of tin foil. When I first got it, I showed you that dent that I saw on the side of it from when the light had smashed into it. Well, me being me and slightly clumsy, I dropped the light from about 1 foot where it landed on its light yoke and fell over on the hood, and the hood just folded. And I couldn't believe it. Like, GVM obviously didn't put any money into that hood, which is okay. It's just a hood. I can take the one off the Aputure and put it on if I need to, but just something to know. And speaking of the light yoke, I really do like the light yoke better on the GVM than I do in the Aputure. On the Aputure, there's only one place to lock down the yoke, where on the GVM there's two, and that really helps for stability. Now let's see what their cases look like. They both are canvas and foam cases, but you see how much thicker the foam is on the Aputure than the GVM? And seeing as the GVM is about 4 times heavier than this Aputure light, you can see how that could be a problem. Now let's fire these lights up. Both lights are rated at a 95 plus CRI, and as the Aputure only puts out daylight, that's the only thing I'm going to compare them on. So when firing these two lights up, it's very apparent that I should no longer be comparing these two lights, as they have nothing to do with each other than the fact that they are chip-on-board LED lights. But I'll show you the results anyways. I measured each light from 2 yards away, and I measured in lumens. And the maximum I was able to get out of the Aputure is 1,327 lumens. Now that's with the hood on. With the hood off, it was 1,079 lumens. With the GVM at daylight putting out 978 lumens with the hood on and 759 without it. Now remember, you can change the beam angle on the GVM light. So when you do that and change it to a spot, you can get 1,411 lumens out of that GVM light in daylight mode. But remember, you're no longer having a floodlight, it's more of a spotlight. The Aputure can actually go dimmer than the GVM. The lowest the Aputure could get to is 50 lumen, and the GVM, on the other hand, only goes down to 202 lumen. So the Aputure can go much dimmer than the GVM can. And at this point in the video, I'm going to stop talking about a light that has been around for years and concentrate on the GVM 150S. What makes this light amazing is its versatility. As mentioned before, you can actually change the beam angle on the light itself without having to have a separate attachment. Also, this light shoots in a wide range of 5500 Kelvin all the way down to 2000 Kelvin. Now you may be asking yourself, why do I need a light that goes down to 2000 Kelvin? The reason for that is the maximum brightness of this light is when it's at tungsten, because the daylight bulbs and the 2000 Kelvin bulbs are on at the same time. Now in tungsten mode, this light gets to 1249 lumens when you have a hood on it, and even brighter on spot mode. Now one thing I did notice is that when switching through the Kelvin ranges, it's pretty smooth except on the ends. At 5500 Kelvin and at 2000 Kelvin, there's a jump, meaning that when you're turning towards 55 Kelvin, it jumps to like a blue, and when going down to 2000 Kelvin, it jumps to an orange. Now, I believe this is due to the fact that each light turns on at 5%. You can't go down to 4% or 3% or 2% or 1%. It jumps from 0 to 5%, which creates that jump. But with this being a studio light, I really don't know why you would be switching temperatures in the middle of a shot anyways. Now, I think I buried the lead here just a little bit, because the entire reason I bought this light was because not only does it do all the things I've already stated, but it is an RGB chip-on-board light. Now, while my light meter doesn't read reds and blues very well, I'll give you a comparison view between daylight and some of the colors. Again, I noticed every time you get to a primary color such as red, green, or blue, you have that 5% jump again. But, like I said before, it's not really that big of a deal. Okay, now we'll talk about a few negative things that I haven't gotten to so far. I really wish they would have integrated an app with this light where you can kind of go around and change the colors and whatnot, or at least a remote, because there's nothing more tedious than having to take a light up and down every time you want to change the color of the light. But overall, I'm very happy with my purchase of this light. Now, when I purchased it, I got it on Amazon for $459, which is a screaming deal. Now, at the point of this video, I can no longer find that deal, and the only place I can find it is on GVM's website. And at their price point, it's $600. Now, that's still a pretty decent deal, all things considered. Because overall, if you need a studio light that has RGB, I don't know where else you'll go to get this brightness with RGB, bicolor, Fresnel, I mean, all the versatility that this light has in a studio. Now, I have recently bought another light from GVM called the GVM 50 RS, which is another bicolor RGB light. Now, I doubt it's going to match the output of the 150S, but stay tuned later for more on this light. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me on the first episode of Lunescope Film School. This is going to be a channel dedicated to filmmaking, because that's what I know and that's what I love. If you haven't subscribed yet, which, let's be honest, you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button down there. If you like the video, you don't have to smash it, maybe flick it or something down there. If you want me to review anything else, go ahead and leave a comment in the description. Till next time, remember, it's not a competition. Let's all rise in this business together. And I can't put that on GVM. We got to put that on. So, oh, God, another buck. Oh, and I just took out a light. Because of that kind of shit. Oh my God. Every time I take this out, oh, that cord. This light's gonna be broken by the time I